Electric American Military Vehicles. This is Ronald Stein. You like this picture, I know, Ronald.
Carrying a big load.
uh, Ronald is author, columnist, engineer, and Pulitzer Prize nominated book Clean Energy Exploitation, and founder of PTS company in California, started in California. Ronald, please let me share two. Yeah, first is this one. Uh, um, See that a military tank has over 60 tons of weight. So big, 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 very big vehicle. And the fuel capacity is 500 gallons or almost 2,000 liters. It's a
Right.
very, very huge position. So my point for you first, please. Uh, what size of battery is needed to replace this type of vehicles, these fuel capacity vehicles?
Armando, I don't think they know because it's never been done before. But the one thing that's really disappointing to me is they weren't very clear about electrifying military vehicles because the postal service has a lot of vehicles, and the postal service, they don't go anywhere. They basically go around the community, then they go back to home base. Well, in
You
the
mean
United States,
UPS, FedEx, these
yeah,
ones?
yeah, right, yeah, right, and UPS, all those, they had their day trips, and they go back to home base where they can charge up. Well, the military has a very similar thing called non-tactical vehicles, which do the same thing. They don't travel very much, and they run around the block and then they're back home and they can charge again. So the non-tactical vehicles in the United States, there's more than 170,000 of them,
Oh,
and basically it's across five branches in the defense industry, and it's the second largest federal government vehicle fleet, the non-tactical vehicles. And I could see them being candidates for EVs because they don't go anywhere. The tactical vehicles, now we're talking about the big stuff, the tanks and rocket launchers and everything goes into the fighting duties where they don't have a home base to go back to. That is, they're talking about electrifying them, but they're talking about electrifying them maybe by 2050. And by that time, maybe the idea will go away. but like I say, they were just very non-clear, like they are a lot of times. But talking about electrifying the military fleet, I believe they're really only talking about at this time, and if they want to do it by 2030, it's really got to be only the non-tactical fleet, not the wartime vehicles. Because,
so,
like I say, just like UPS, they just do their thing and then they come back home. It's kind of like an 8 hour working and that type of thing.
but the speech of the president of the USA was require U.S. military to implement all electric
Yes,
vehicles by
that's right.
2030.
That's right. And I'm being kind that he really didn't mean it because, like you say, it's never been done before. Like you say, a tank or fighting vehicles, and the way how you're going to charge them. I mean, that's a totally different subject. But if he intentionally, meant the non-tactical, I could see that as being, an effort he might want to do. But yeah, so he's just not very clear, and the fact that he won't participate in the conversation, there's no way to ask him for that clarification.
But Ronald, if a Tesla vehicle has a 500
1,000 pound battery.
1,000 pound battery,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And the 18 wheeler has a 16,000 pound battery.
how big is this battery?
Big. Well, not as big, but the bigger it is, the bigger the range, or the larger the range. So yeah, it's like they haven't designed it. They haven't decided what kind of range they want, how often they want to charge it. You know, if you want a short range, you can get by with a smaller battery. So
But the idea is to have power station the enemy soil to stop there and wait, stop fighting. I will charge my vehicle. So
yeah, well, the fact that the energy secretary mentioned that, you know, she felt this can be implemented by the year 2030. Well, I could see that for the non-tactical vehicles as a potential target, but not for the big stuff. Not for the big stuff that's, you know, first of all, we're not in any wars, and so there's probably no big demand to even, I guess, talk about that further because, you know, we're basically at peace and all the militaries, you know, they have their vehicles, the Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's, yeah, when she mentioned 2030, I said, well, you really don't mean all vehicles. I mean, I'm making that interpretation.
yeah. So you see that's possible. They see the same application to Navy, to military ships and things like that.
Well, exactly. If it's not involved in combat, because in combat now you got different parameters. Because, well, just like right now, I mean, if the non-tactical vehicles, if they go back to home base, well, yeah, you know, the enemy can destroy the charging stations, but you don't have that situation when you're at peace on your own land. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they
Yeah.
really didn't mean what they said.
Yeah, because think that the enemy region that you are applying your military vehicles, they can destroy the power stations to recharge.
Exactly.
Battery of this.
Yeah, it goes away. Yeah. You know, if we were, you know, physically at war in, you know, with, you know, Russia or Afghanistan, if we were there, you know, our vehicles, that would be a totally different story. But, you know, we're not, you know, we're at peace. You know, we're helping to finance, you know, some of the war activity, but we're not there and our people aren't there. So we're not really exposed.
Ronald, clarify for us, please, what is tactical and non-tactical vehicles, military vehicles?
Well, the non-tactical is basically just, you know, run-of-the-mill activities. I mean, they got mobile vehicles from SUVs to, I guess, you know, some of the vehicles might have some guns on it,
Mhm.
but it's really not intended to go to war with. And so,
Oh,
you know, just like, you know, UPS, I mean, they've got, you know, lots of trucks. Well, the
it's,
military, they've got a lot of vehicles too, from sedans to, you know,
it's more
pickup
to the
trucks.
support, the logistics and support for food and things
Exactly, right. Because, you know, I didn't look up how many people are in the military. It's huge, and there's a lot of military bases. I know here in California, we got 41 military bases just here in California.
like that.
So
Why? What's the reason to have so many?
can't answer that.
Because there is no fight, no war with California. So why to invest much money in
I'm not sure. Like I say,
that?
now we're talking
I
about
know.
government
I understand.
operations, and
I
you know,
understand.
sometimes you can't introduce a logical question.
Let's talk about only technical issues.
Okay.
Yeah, but so you mentioned that the United States has 40,000 vehicles.
41 military bases.
Yeah, but vehicles, you mentioned the
Well,
beginning of
the
our
100,
conversation.
the 174,000 tactical vehicles, that's throughout the country. Because
And
there's military bases in every state.
yeah, and when there is a war outside the United States, they move these vehicles to there. How they do that?
I guess they do because they don't make the vehicles to go to war. I mean, these
Exactly.
vehicles are on, you know, on the different military bases, but you know, maybe the heavier ones they don't want to, you know, electrify because obviously tanks they don't use them very often unless they're doing, you know, duties or something. But Yeah, there's very little usage of I want to say the tactical equipment.
The Secretary of Energy is she a specialist in energy specifically, or she's a political?
Probably as much of a specialty as President Biden.
It's
I
the same
haven't
in Brazil.
I haven't
The
had
same.
I haven't had any energy literacy conversations with her or with Joe.
Yeah, I saw some speech of her, and it's not understandable totally. Very superficial, but similar to Brazil. Don't worry about that. We have the
Okay,
same problem here.
okay,
Politicians are sometimes they know nothing about nothing.
no, they know everything.
And the money that's applied to military vehicles and things like that are huge in the United States. It's still growing, or how does it work?
Oh yeah, it's like I said, the military budget is. You're right, it's huge, and then you got the different branches, and it's huge. I know over the weekend, the aircraft carrier was in the port of Los Angeles, and it's huge. I mean, there's so big. There's 500 sailors that are on that ship all the time.
Wow,
500.
oh my God, that's a
Yeah,
lot of people.
yeah. It's amazing to see it in person. Wow. I mean, it's basically a small landing strip.
And when they send military weapons and things like that to Ukraine, for instance,
Right.
uh, of course, this is not the top level military weapons. Are normally second class. I'm not sure about that. Uh, the manufacturing plants that supply military requests, uh, which companies are there? Are them?
I'm not sure what the company names are, but you're right. It's a select field of it's a limited number of suppliers. But yeah, there's people that make the tanks and the vehicles that have all the armor and the rocket launchers. Yeah, that's it's all specialty stuff. When you take a look at like fire engines, there's certain companies that make fire engines and the specs for those fire engines. I'd like to see the specs because there's so many options that you can add this and this and this to it. And the same thing with military vehicles. You want rocket launchers, you want machine guns, and yeah. So there's a lot of options. So I've never been involved in specking,
Checking.
a military vehicle or a fire truck. Yeah.
That's a good point. So when they design a vehicle, let's say electric vehicle for wars and for
Yeah.
is a military request, military specification, or the company's offer? How do you see this trade?
Well, the military would request the EV. Basically, you got to have some engineering done to how big it has to be and how it's going to fit into the vehicle. So, yeah, there's a lot of engineering that goes into it, just like a vehicle. Like you say, you might have air conditioning, and whenever you buy a new vehicle, there's a lot of options you can take. But when they do, you got to fit them all into the car in some way. And so there's a lot of engineering before it goes into, procurement of the stuff to make it and the actual fabrication, putting it together. So yeah, there's a lot of engineering behind it that'll take place. And a lot of it's going to be, whatever the range is, that's going to pretty much determine the battery size. The battery size is going to determine how big the vehicle has to be to carry that big of a battery. Just like the photo you had on your thing,
Let me put here, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's very funny, yeah. Yeah. It's
for
actually,
my yeah, that battery is a little bit bigger than the flashlight battery I have. So it really depends on two things: is what kind of range they want, and the charging time. And so once you have those criteria, then the engineers can design how big of a battery you need, and that impacts how you design the vehicle to accommodate that battery. And you might want to have it, where you can basically plug one in and take one out. I mean, just like the air blower I have at the house, it has a replaceable battery. Just take one out, charge it, and replace it with another one. So it depends what they want out of that vehicle, and that determines what is engineered, what the thing's going to look like.
Uh-huh.
And then you wind up, buying the materials, and it goes into fabrication.
Perfect. But batteries probably are not coming from China, or are they coming from China, these big ones?
Well, I think you're going to see more and more batteries coming from the United States.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Ironically, they're doing a lot of fracking for oil in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And one thing they've determined is the wastewater, this toxic wastewater that comes out of fracking,
Yeah.
there's a lot of lithium in that.
Oh,
And they're estimating commercially, there might be enough lithium to provide 30-40% of the United States needs for lithium. So I think you're going to see lithium batteries being made here. And it's interesting that, like I say, that the fracking has exposed that, whoa, there's lithium in that wastewater. And if we can extract that, then we just have to deal with the toxic water. That's a different
yeah.
problem. But yeah, there's a lot of lithium. And I think you're going to see more and more batteries being built in the United States,
United
which
States.
is obviously good for the military.
Yeah, but this changed the game, because the dependency of China and other places in the world to
Exactly.
manufacturers, yeah, is
Yes. Yeah.
really important.
Right. I'm not sure of the cost. Right now, lithium from there is pretty cheap. Lithium from
Yeah.
here, even though, hey, it's just like the Beverly Hillbillies. We discovered oil. Hey, we discovered lithium. But I'm not sure what the cost is going to be to actually get that lithium to the battery itself.
Are you seeing the sales of normal electric cars are growing, still growing, or not growing now?
Well, they say they're growing, but I keep seeing that, Mercedes has backed off, Volkswagen has backed off. Ford is saying they're losing $100,000 per vehicle. And so a lot of the manufacturers are tightening the belt on what the projections are. And I don't know if the sales are projected to continue to grow, because as we talked, the elites have bought them and the elites will continue to buy them, but we're getting down to the common folk. And then we're only talking about the wealthy countries that can even afford this. And the wealthy countries only represent like 7% of the world.
Yeah.
And in the less fortunate countries, they have, they got vehicles. They do have vehicles. They're old vehicles. And there's no such thing as an old electric vehicle. They haven't been around that long. I saw a news article that the average the average age of a personal vehicle is 12 years old. And I said, whoa.
Non-electrical cars.
Right, non-electrical. And my first reaction is, I'm not sure electrical vehicle will last 12 years.
Never. It's impossible.
And so it'd be interesting to see how the public, like I said, I know I'm here in California, and we have about, I think, 170,000 homeless people in California. We're a big state. And with everybody, being pretty much in debt and living paycheck to paycheck and unable to save and having very little savings in case they lose a job, to me, that they're one paycheck. If they lose a job, they may be one paycheck away from joining the homeless. Well, they're not going to be buying a new car. They're going to be buying a used car, if they can buy a car at all. And, I was talking to my wife because, here, $1 million house is common, and it goes up from there. But to buy a house, you got to put down 20% to get reasonable interest. Well, 20% is $200,000. If these people can't pay off their credit cards, more likely they won't be able to put down $200,000, to buy a house. And if you don't buy a house, then you got to rent an apartment, and apartments can run like $3,000 a month. I mean, it's really tough economically. So the common folk, I think you're going to see a resistance on their ability to procure an EV. They may need a vehicle for transportation, but if they can't afford a vehicle, then they'll buy a motorcycle. but they do need transportation, and it's going to be a challenge for the
no doubt.
for the economy because, like you say, the fact that the wealthy countries are the ones pursuing all these environmental ambitions. That's the wealthy countries don't represent the majority of the world. The fact that we can afford it, we can go after it. But if you're in a developing country with, poor people and lack of sanitation and running water, I mean, it's
The basics. Yeah.
the basics, yeah. And it's going to be an interesting challenge because, like you say, we have, the wealthy countries have a lot of ambitions that are just, you can't even bring it into discussion with most of the world.
Ronald, do you suppose that these electrical military vehicles could be exported to other countries? I mean, friend countries, NATO countries.
Why, the same thing, because, France, Brazil, you probably have the same thing of having, UPS type trucks, and you probably have non-tactical vehicles that they're not going into the battle and they're basically doing the normal things. And yeah, they might be candidates for electric vehicles, but if it works here, it would obviously, work again there. But again, you're talking about only the wealthy countries that have militaries.
Yeah.
Most of the poor countries, they don't have militaries.
But Ronald, you mentioned UPS, and you could say FedEx and other DHL. So
Right.
It's a long time ago they started using electrical vehicles to make their package deliveries.
Yes,
It's not
like you say,
new.
they're candidates. We talked about it before. There's no silver bullet answer to accommodate everything, but if it fits that routine, well, it's just like the people that have an EV. It's a low mileage vehicle. It's usually parked in the garage, and they use it for going back and forth to shopping. Well, if you have a UPS truck or a DHL truck, it runs a circuit for 8 hours, and then it's parked at home base again.
But so they started 20 years ago. This movement, electrical vehicles. It's not new.
No, it's not new. It's just a matter of
It's before Tesla wave and these new solutions of electrical normal vehicles. It's very, very old.
yes. And with the cost of fuel, it might be an economical thing to do that. This way, like you say, you pay more for the electric vehicle, but if you don't have to buy fuel, then you might be a better case. But it's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
And there's certain industries that I think it's an ideal.
I suppose school buses are electrical too, no? In the United
They
States.
want to make them electrical. I think I'm not sure how many have converted to that, but yeah, anything that, basically operates from 8 to 5, that's
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
So those I think are good candidates. And then it becomes
Yeah.
a matter of, budget. Can you afford it? And
So it's good. We are not radical to say don't use electrical vehicles. No,
no.
for some for some applications it's reasonable. It's acceptable.
Right. And there's a lot of, such, I want to put them in a non-tactical, category, but yeah, it fits that category. Let the buyer make the decision, because the buyer, if you're, working and have to travel a lot, you don't want to, expose yourself to being, stuck in a situation. So I think instead of the government dictating, what should be used. Let the user determine what it should
Yeah.
be. I mean, UPS, I think they could easily make an electrical decision to do that.
Yeah.
And for the non-tactical military vehicles, might be appropriate. When you have, vehicles, going into Afghanistan or something, you might want to not have an electric vehicle. You
No,
know?
no. Front wars, military vehicles are impossible. Ships are still impossible. We do not know very soon, and planes, flights, so airplanes. So it's not possible
Well,
yet.
exactly, because, we know we got, 50,000 merchant ships, we got 50,000 military jets, we got 20,000 commercial jets. There's a lot of things that don't fit that convenient
Yeah.
access. And besides, those merchant ships, military jets, commercial jets, they run 24/7. And so, and not only they run 24/7, they are big and require tremendous power. And so it wouldn't work for them.
But my last point for you today, Ronald, about these electrical vehicles and batteries. Do you expect that technology can change this game in terms of batteries? That can come something, let's see, new, really new, that can reduce size, time of charge. Do you believe on that?
Oh yes, I mean that's changing on a daily basis. I mean it's just like the iPhone. It. I remember when phones first came out. You remember they were like 2-pound phones.
Yeah,
You hold up
yeah,
to your ear, and now you can talk to your watch. So no, the technology is constantly improving, and so is the charging time. And with my iPhone, I could just charge it in the car. Just running, and or just have it sitting here when I'm not using it, charging. So the charging time is going to be improving. The size and efficiency is going to be size is going to decrease and efficiency is going to improve. So yeah, without a doubt, there's going to be a lot of improvement in that arena. It's just uh, the biggest problem I have is having the government mandate to everybody,
yeah.
you got to go this way.
Yeah, generalistic. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So and of course, on your prediction, how long you see that will take the reversion of this expectation to batteries be small size and with how long? 10 years, 20 years?
Well, I guess the thing I keep thinking about is, the world's got 8 billion people on it. And we're talking about, the countries that are, quote, going green is the United States, Germany, UK, Australia,
Norway.
Brazil, Norway. Once you've eliminated those from the 8 billion, that's only servicing,
That's
a,
right.
a billion people.
Yeah.
And it's a small number of people. Like say, the wealthy countries will be in fine shape, but is that translatable to the developing countries? That's
Very difficult.
that's that's the challenge because
That's
we
the
want to
challenge.
have, the people living in these poor countries that have, no running water, no sanitation.
Yeah.
We'd like them to join the Industrial Revolution and have some of the things that we have.
We use.
And that's the thing I think we're missing is the fact that, yeah, we can solve our goals of going green, but the real world, I think, getting further and further apart from those. I mean, these
The
are basically,
distance is growing.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're primitive people almost. I mean, the fact that 80% of the world is living on less than $10 a day,
Ah,
that is scary.
terrible.
And like I say, we're living in this area. We can't
That's
see
right.
them, and
That's right.
yeah. So yeah, we'll improve batteries. Like I say, we've got iPhones. We've got ways of having Wi-Fi around the world, but the people in Africa may not have it.
Never.
They may not even know what this device is.
Will take a long time for that. Yeah. Long time.
Yes. So we have to continue to look at. Yeah, we're developing it for ourselves, but there's 8 billion people in this world,
Yeah.
and we've done a great job of growing from 1 to 8 billion because of all the products we have, and we can feed them, but we got to get them the same medical opportunities that we have. We can have, foot surgery and open heart surgery and all. They probably don't have a hospital to go to.
No, they do not have. Yeah, still for a long time. That's a big challenge for the world.
Exactly.
And growing this distance is dangerous for the world because
Yes. If you have a broken leg, you can get it, put it in the cast and get it fixed here. If you're somewhere out there, you may have a broken leg, and so, or you might have a torn rotator cuff, but if there's no doctor to fix it, you live with it.
It's a big problem.
Yeah, so that's the biggest challenge that I see about all the environmental goals and ambitions is, and hopefully if we can make them efficient enough and cost effective enough, maybe we can get it down, to those people. But I just see, like I said, we're just leaving 7 billion people behind while we're shooting off to the moon and leaving them behind.
Yeah, that's right. Great conversation again. Every time, it's a pleasure for me talk to
Same
you.
here, Armando. Yeah, and like I say, I would love to have conversations with anybody that's trying to set policy, because
especially for politicians that do not do this.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Okay, Armando, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.